This week's Torah portion is what's called Bo. It's the third Torah portion in the book of Exodus, book of Shemot. And it talks about the last 3 plagues that the Jewish people brought on the Egyptians. God brought on the Egyptians. And how they left Egypt. How they're going out of Egypt. Right in the end, the very actual leaving of Egypt, they all took a sheep. They all took a sheep. They sacrificed the sheep. That's the Paschal lamb. And God smote all the firstborn, and they left Egypt. Amazing story. Never been anything like it in the history of the whole world. No one has ever made such a claim. There's other religions which claim to be the replacements for Judaism. And even they don't make up such a story. I mean, they admit that this story is true, that God took the Jews out of Egypt and he gave them the Torah, great miracles, and then they also claim that they now are the new replacements of Judaism. But you'd think they would at least make up a story like this. I mean, there's big professors, especially Israeli professors, and they say that the whole story was made up anyway. So why didn't anybody else ever make up such a story? Especially, you said, well, no, why would someone make up a story? They're not motivated. So what about the other religions? They can say, yes, but God took out, all of the heathens, and he took them to a big mountain in Rome or something, and he showed them, or God took out all of the Bedouins, and he took them to a big place in Mecca, and suddenly came, why don't they have something, even a very vaguely similar story to this? Where God takes the whole entire nation, millions and millions of people, from total abject slavery, and he brings them out to freedom. Why don't we have such a story? Well, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about not why not, but why yes. Why did God really do this to the Jews? Why? Why did he make all these miracles and these wonders for the Jews? And we see not only that, it didn't really work that well. It didn't work. These other religions have billions and billions of followers, and Jews have, 2 or 3, that are really sort of genuine, and then the rest of them, they have, a couple million, who at the most, they're people that are really serious.
Abyssal followers. Abyssal.
A few. So why is it, So one reason is because Judaism expects a lot from a person. And it doesn't promise him really anything concrete in return. It expects for a Jew to be totally devoted to the Creator and the purpose of creation and to the Torah. And that itself is the reward. Just the fact that you're serving the Creator of the universe, you're connected to the Creator of the universe, that's the greatest reward that it can be. And we can see in the physical world that it works that way. We can see that sometimes people used to go into the army, right? Just to be a servant of your country, just to really be a servant. You talk to these people who are in the American Army and the Green Berets or the SEALs of these people. They're the quietest people. Rarely do they brag about what they did and brag. In the Israeli Army, for sure not. For sure. I'm just not acquainted with the others. In the Israeli Army, I've never seen it. I've been there for a soldier bragging about what he did and his feats of courage and his bravado and his how he succeeded, and generals going on and saying I was the greatest and I led and you don't see it, because the greatest pleasure that a person can have is doing the right thing, and that's what Judaism promises you, that you do the right thing. And it could be nobody will even recognize it, know it. So Judaism expects a lot from you. And we can see that God made all these miracles for the Jews, and in fact, it didn't have much of an effect on them at all. God said, okay, now I did all these miracles for you. I did them all just so that you would get out and be free, and now you can start serving me. And everybody said, let's go back to Egypt. Let's Let's have a few more miracles first, and then we'll think about it. The Parshas of Shavua, in our portion of the week, the Torah tells us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that God Siva commanded Lekachat to take. All the Jewish families had to take Seh Beyom HaSiri, Seh Lebeit Avot, Seh Lebayit. Each household had to take a sheep or a goat on the 10th day of the month of Nisan, 5 days before they left Egypt. Lachziku b'bayit, to take it in the house, mispar yomim, for a few days. B'yom arba asur, and on the 14th day, right, the day preceding their going out of Egypt, and that night, the shachto, to slaughter it, ulahakrivo, and to make a korban pesach. At the daytime of the 14th, and then the nighttime of 14th to eat it. Good? Now God did so many miracles for the Jews, and he did so many things, he could do it all on his own. Why didn't he do this on his own? Why did he insist that the Jews should take this sheep into their house and 4 days before your sacrifices? Now there's no such thing like that in sacrifices, where you have to take the sheep into your house. In the sacrifices in the holy temples, you never had to take the thing into your house. You had to check it to see if it was kosher or not. But that could be done just in a very short amount of time, minutes, who knows. Why do they have to take it into their house for 4 days? To take a sheep in your house, try it sometime. Take a sheep into your house for 4 days. Right? The only thing you get out of it is a very smelly house and a very happy feeling when you get it out of your house. And why did he make them do it? Celibate about celibate. They hold it in their house for 4 days and then let it. L'shem ma, for why? Was it necessary to take a sheep on the 10th of the day? Omer Azal, the rabbi, say kadei, in order. Shekasher, that when Hamitzrim, the Egyptians, you will see Bereshut Bnei Israel, in the possession of every Jew at the Kvasim, a sheep, V'yishalum, and they will ask him, the Egyptians will ask the Jews, L'shem ma hem mechazikim eto, why are you holding on to a sheep in your house? Who brings a sheep into their house? Lo yitpalu, the Jews won't get excited. They won't get scared. Why would they get scared? Because, we'll see in a moment, sheep was one of the main gods of Egypt. Sheep was the, I guess, Aries, whatever, in the zodiac, the beginning of the zodiac. So sheep was one of the main gods of Egypt. B'yanu, they wanted the Jews to answer, Anu machzikim et kevas b'bayit, we're holding this sheep in our house kadei, in order to shachto, in order to sacrifice it, ulakrivo the korban, and to bring it, to kill it, and to bring it for a sacrifice to God. We are sacrificing your Lord. Hamitzrim Abdulaseh, the Egyptians worshipped these sheep. They worshipped other things also, but the sheep was one of the big attractions. This was their idolatry. Therefore, Amor, they said, Hari Moshe Rabbeinu, Pharaoh, Moshe said to Pharaoh, Hein Nizbach V'lo Yischalunu. Moshe said to Pharaoh, we want to leave and sacrifice our sacrifices, make a sacrifice to God outside of Egypt, because if we do it inside of Egypt, they'll kill us. The people are going to kill us. And Pharaoh said, no way, I'm not letting you go. That's what Moshe said. If we sacrifice that sheep, they're not going to kill us. Nevertheless, God commanded them to hold on at the kevas to this sheep or the goat 4 days. And when the Egyptians asked, which they were bound to ask in the course of 4 days, if you could just take it into your house like for 10 minutes, something you could do it at night, no one would see you. 4 days, 24 hours a day, sheep make noise, right? Goats make sounds. The Egyptians will say, Daddy, I heard the Jews have sheep in their house. And their fathers say, can't be, no way, come and listen. They go to the houses and there they hear sheep's braying and blatting and blaying or whatever they're doing. And the Egyptians saying, why are you doing that? So they'll say, Ratzonenu lishchot oto, we're going to kill your God, velakrivo, and to sacrifice in front of. Right?
His chutzpah.
In other words, the Jews had to say this. They had to say it. A Jew couldn't say sheep. What sheep? Sheep? My son, he has bad cough, and, wow, there's a sheep in my house. I didn't know there was a sheep. To get out of it some way. No way of getting out of it. I was waiting for you to ask that. We have the sheep because we're going to sacrifice it to our God. Hatokef, Mesirut Nefesh, this bravery and self-sacrifice, Shahayu Az L'Bnei Yisrael, that was to the Jews, Lo Livilti Litrashem, not to be impressed, scared of the Egyptians. Hey, view at the Gula, that is what really brought the redemption. Kafi Razal Omrim, like the rabbis say, Shebeshat Yetzias Mitzrayim, when the Jews left Egypt, Hayu Bnei Yisrael Arumim Min HaMitzvos, the Jewish people were naked from the commandments. Kakatuv, like it says, At Arom Ba'aryeh, that you were naked. Naked and what is it, empty? Poor. Halalu Ovdei Avodah Zarah, Halu Ovdei Avodah says the Jews worshipped idols and the Egyptians worshipped idols. What does it mean? The Jews were in Egypt. They were under the influence of the Egyptians. The Egyptians, they were slaves of the Egyptians. They had to be around the Egyptians all the time. The Egyptians' houses were filled with idols, right? They told the Jews, wash it off, clean it, shine it, right? Paint it, right? Watch how we're serving the idol, right? See that the grounds are clean. So the Jews were always under the influence of this idolatry. And maybe worst of all, it worked. The Egyptians were the most powerful nation in the world, and they worshipped all sorts of weird things, cats and the sun, the moon, and one of the main idols was the sheep. And you could see that it paid off. It paid off to worship these things. The Egyptians were the masters. The Jews were the slaves. So any normal person that had a brain in his head will see that if you want success, you do what the successful people do, right? Find someone successful and copy him. That's the purpose of life, right? There's hundreds and hundreds of self-help books and self-improvement books, that's the goal in life, to be successful. You want to be in the top. How do you do it? You find someone successful and you copy him. Well, here we have the example. Jews are supposed to be smart people. Here we see the Egyptians were worshiping idols and they were tremendously successful. It really paid off. So obviously it had some effect on the Jews as well. So therefore God gave them one mitzvah, Shel Korban Pesach, to sacrifice the Paschal lamb. First mitzvah. Because of this commandment that they did, and what are they doing when they sacrifice this lamb? They're doing something that God wants. They're doing something that God wants. They're attaching themselves to God's will, the creator of the universe. And because they had this self-sacrifice, that they told the Egyptians, that's what we're going to do. That's why they got out of Egypt. Hashem said, I see, it's worth it to take these people out of Egypt. I can see that they really are not affected deeply in their souls. Their souls are free. Their souls are free. They're getting out of their personal Egypts. So they had to do this one act of bravery and this one act of defiance. And when they did that, God knew it was worthwhile to free them. When they were freed, they would continue to defy the world to this very day. At least they have the power to do it, the ability. We see it didn't work that well. I mean, 40 days after they got the Torah, they worshipped the golden calf. They participated in somehow or other, or they didn't complain. So we see the world has much more power over us than we can possibly imagine. When the world unleashes its powers of enticement and frightening us to be afraid, the world can really make us afraid. And here we see the Jews God realized the Jews have the power to defy the world. Base. Ne'amar, it says, there's a pasuk in the prophet Micha. And it says, like just like the days of going out of Egypt, at Renani Float, I will show you miracles. Kolomar, in other words, Gulat Mitzrayim, that which we left Egypt, Mishameshet Mashal. It is only an example. It's a, how do you call it? A taste of. The Gula de La'atid, the future redemption. It's a trial, right? Simulation. Me'achas and Shazem Mashal Shalatorah. Since this is a Mashal Torah movement, it's understood. Shagam and Yanim Sheviu et Yitzid Mitzrayim. It must be, because the Torah brings this, that it is a preparation. The preparation for the future redemption was the going out of Egypt. So therefore, it must be that every detail, especially those details that actually brought to the future redemption, Yaviu will bring which brought the past redemption, which brought the redemption from Egypt, will bring the future redemption from our present gullus, from ourselves. Kafir Yadu, like it is known, the mashal of the Torah, that any mashal, any example, parable, whatever that's given, a metaphor that's given from the Torah, matima prate mashal lenimshal. It must be that all of the details of this metaphor that the Torah gives. What's the metaphor? Going out of Egypt is only a metaphor. It's just an example, something like what's going to be in the future redemption, which we're awaiting any instant now. It's already 2,000 years late. Kashem Shiatziz Mitzrayim, just like going out of Egypt, depended by means of a tokef, by power, bravery, umasirat nefesh, and self-sacrifice. Also, the future redemption will be by means of going in a way of bravery and self-sacrifice. If you should, even though you should do all of the commandments with tokef, how much more so that the mitzvah of loving every Jew. Loving every Jew is the foundation of the whole Torah. Yesh l'kayim b'tokef, and not litrashem. You should do it in a strong way, a brave way, and not to be affected or deterred by anyone. I've heard people say, people told me, Chabad, I like Chabad because you're not fanatics. Chabad, you're not fanatics. So I said, that's totally not right. That's totally the opposite. Maybe the most fanatic of all of the groups of Judaism, Chabad is the most fanatic. We're fanatic for loving every Jew. Fanatic for loving every Jew. Nothing will stop us. We're not impressed by anybody. We're not afraid of anyone. Every Jew, we believe, has something good inside of him, something that is truly shining and beautiful and valuable that nobody has in the world. And this is true also by non-Jews also, but a Jew is just a different sort of a depth, a double love. If you should love everyone in the world, a Jew has a double love, because inside of every Jew's natural created soul is what we call a godly soul. So it's a double reason. It's like having the attraction to the Holy Temple because it was an unusual building and it was a religious place, and also because that's where God was revealed. God is revealed. Same thing in every single Jew. If all the mitzvahs you should do, like the Rebbe said, in a way of bravery and and not making any concessions, how much more so the mitzvah of loving every Jew? Loving every Jew is the foundation of the whole Torah. You have to do it with tokef, and not to be, no matter what a person does, to have love for every Jew. Yesh t'sochea im Yehudi. You should talk to every Jew about doing Torah and the commandments. Ukeshe'adavar lo mashpia, and if you see that you talk to a Jew and it has no effect on him, you should do it another time. Talk another time. Even if this person tells you to leave him alone, in lidrashem, don't be affected. Adarav, exactly the opposite. Ha'uvda, the fact, shahala bo'et, the purpose, the fact that this person gets aggravated and tells you, go away, I don't want to talk about Judaism, this is a sign that it's important to him. You've touched on an important point. Right? Ask him to buy an elephant. He'll say, I don't want to buy an elephant. So that's, I don't want to buy an elephant. Leave me alone. I don't want to go. Tell him to put on tefillin, get away from me. I don't believe in God. He gets all excited. He starts arguing. God doesn't exist anyway. Yeah, tell me then why the Holocaust. He's angry, right? Tell him to go buy an elephant. He'll say, listen, you know what? You're nuts. I don't want to buy an elephant. That's all. Therefore, you see that talking to a Jew about Judaism makes him excited. Whether it's excited positively or the other way around, you have to speak to him again and again. Until Yiklat Benafsho, until that has an effect in his soul. Yesh L'Lecha B'Tokef. It's true, you have to go in a way of, how do you say,